Small world.
Leaving from the speed skating oval on the mighty Wakama. Okay, this is for which one, Jacob? Composter or the gift pack? Composter first. Okay, so we've got the lid, and the winner is Brian Brunskill. So Brian was one of our presenters from Regina. So okay, maybe he should give him the gift pack. All right, our second draw. Lynn Lugren, I think it is, from Regina. So there you go. So we've been good to the Regina crowd today. So our 2 door prizes go to Regina. So thanks everyone for entering into those draws. So thanks, Jake. Hold on, boys. All right, well, we're going to get into our last session of the weekend, and we're going to combine our 2 last sessions. So we're going to have Jeffrey Waters go first, and then we're going to follow that up with our local couple, Raylyn and Troy Tilbury, are going to then get in to their high performance home design charrette. And so we're hoping that the themes of both presentations will help us finish off these 2 days of discussion and sharing of ideas. So from next up then is Jeffrey Waters from the Grow Green Unit of the Climate Change Branch from the Saskatchewan Ministry of Environment. So warm round of applause for Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry my voice is going to be pretty hoarse because I'm fighting a bit of a cold here still. We're pleased also, you may know that the Ministry of Environment provided a bit of financial support for this event. We're excited that the Housing Forum is continuing, and we'd like to certainly support you in future years. But I'm here to talk about a research and development funding program called the Green Initiatives Fund, or Go Green. And my intent is to provide you with a little bit of insight on how the fund operates, give you some examples of the kinds of projects we've supported in the past, and then I'm going to close out the presentation with some information on incentive programs for homeowners that we have across government, not exclusively within the ministry, but among SaskPower, Sask Energy, and the Saskatchewan Watershed Authority. So for those that don't know what the fund is about, the provincial government made a $70 million commitment 4 years ago to promote research, development, and demonstration of environmental technologies. And we are currently in the last year of that enhanced commitment. That means that our budget this year was $15.3 million, and we dedicate it to a wide array of research and development programs and also incentive programs, which I'll talk about in a second. But the fund was structured to support projects which achieve real environmental outcomes. So we're looking for projects that address 7 priority areas. The first is greenhouse gas reductions. Projects that physically reduce or avoid greenhouse gas emissions. And we measure that, of course, by the amount of tons of carbon dioxide equivalent that are avoided as a result of the project or soon after the project. The next priority area of the fund is water conservation, and we're looking for projects and have supported projects which reduce the amount of potable water consumed across the province. I have some examples of that. Biodiversity is a tricky one, but we were looking for projects which do one of 2 things. One is either enhance the amount of area already under biodiversity management, or add new lands, conservation lands, for biodiversity management. Waste reduction is another priority area. Of course, we're looking for projects which reduce the amount of waste going into landfills. And public education and awareness, it's certainly a component of all of the projects we fund, but we're specifically looking for projects which raise awareness about environmental issues. But the trick is the projects have to be able to measure the success of that public outreach campaign. So there's pre and post learning assessments that are involved. And this is a relatively new priority area for us. I work in the climate change branch, and we're busy developing the provincial climate change policy, which I'm not talking a whole lot about today. But in addition to mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, we also have a strategy, trying to develop a strategy to promote adaptation capacity development. So how do we deal with the extreme weather events in the province? How do we develop capacities within municipalities to deal with the threats that those extreme weather events present? We have a couple of projects that touch on adaptation capacity, but we're really looking for good ideas from the community as to projects that will enhance capacity. One of the main purposes of the fund is really to take environmental technologies from the early innovators. Of course, there's going to be a sector of the population that adopts environmental technologies relatively well, relatively quickly. Really what we're trying to do is promote the adoption among those that are laggards, let's say, and to try to develop market penetration of environmental technologies. And we do that with a series of pilot demonstrations and incentive programs to promote adoption. So the application process is not trivial. It is a competitive process. What has happened in the past is we would ask for full proposals, 20, 30-page documents explaining the nature of the project. And that was very laborious for people. So what we've done in the most recent call is we ask for letters of intent. So you see on the left-hand side of the slide there, letters of intent are really just short 4-page summaries of what the project's about, what kinds of outcomes will be achieved. And then we put all of those letters of intent into a project inventory database that we have. Then, when it's time to procure new projects, and usually that happens once a year, but I can't guarantee when the next call will be, we pull the letters of intent out of the inventory and we say, okay, which one of these do we want full proposals for? Last year, when we had the call, we had 122 responses, 122 letters of intent that we put into inventory. We're just finalizing our contract negotiations now, and we're looking at funding something on the order of about 9 to 12 projects. So the chances of success, because you have to have projects which achieve real environmental outcomes, are about 10%. And the majority of the letters of intent we received didn't actually quantify or couldn't quantify the environmental benefits of the project. So that's the trick when applying to the fund. Another process that we've used on occasion is we define the statement of work, what we need done. So I can think of a couple of examples, but they're mainly in the consulting realm. If we have an idea of work that we need to be to procure, what we do is we draft a statement of work and then we issue what's called a request for proposals. It's a little bit, it's a bit of semantics, but for open calls and calls from the public, we use the letter of intent route, and that seems to have lessened the burden to some extent. Oh, I want to tell you about some of the other criteria we use in evaluating projects. So I talked about the magnitude of environmental outcomes. That's important. But we rank projects on the basis of cost effectiveness to the fund. So we get an estimate of what the environmental outcomes will be through time, because the proponent tells us what they expect them to be, and we verify that information. And we know what the ask of the fund is. So we're very readily able to calculate a cost-benefit ratio, and we literally rank projects on the basis of cost effectiveness. Project risk is important. In the increasing age of public accountability and government accountability for the use of public funds, there is risk aversion in government. We want projects which are most likely to achieve what they say they're going to. So we have a very detailed risk assessment, and that includes assessing the project or the proponent's experience in developing these kinds of projects and bringing them to successful fruition. And we also look at the management plan and make sure that the project is in alignment with government priorities. So I'm going to give you some examples of projects that we have funded. Some of them are relevant to homeowners, some of them aren't. Some of them may become relevant to homeowners in the future, but not today. Here's one. Biomass, let me say it this way. We have a project with the Meadow Lake Tribal Council just outside of Meadow Lake, and there's a mill there. It's the North Sask Mill. And it's a lumber mill, and that mill generates a lot of residual biomass, or a lot of waste biomass, sawdust and wood chips and those sorts of things. Typically what happens is that material gets burned in a beehive burner. You see a photograph on the top there, literally a beehive, and they combust it. Of course, it's wasted energy. It generates loads of carbon dioxide. So this project was to develop a pelletizing facility next to the North Sask mill. And then the project, the Meadow Lake Tribal Council, developed a series of boilers, some on local schools and business ventures, but in a couple of homes as well in northern communities. So the idea is to look at the economics of wood-based pelletized heating in the northern communities. And that project has been performing quite well. And I think we're into the second year or so on that. And it's proving to be quite economical for areas which typically rely on propane heating. So that's one project in the greenhouse gas reduction priority area. This is another project that we've been working on with the Saskatchewan Research Council for a while. The partners here, again, are the Cowessess First Nations, along with Natural Resources Canada, who has a clean energy fund for larger scale projects, and Indian and Northern Affairs Canada. One of the challenges in successfully implementing wind energy and solar energy projects in the province for large scale generation is that wind and solar are intermittent, right? So the wind doesn't always blow, and of course it's not always sunny. So this project aims to demonstrate a battery storage technology so that when the wind is blowing, you draw the power generated from the turbine into a battery storage system, and then you can feed from the battery back into the Sask Power grid. And there are some issues right now with regards to partner financing, but ideally within the next 2 years they'll have demonstrated one of these systems, and the idea, of course, is to develop the adoption across the province. This is an incentive style program, not quite research and development, although to some extent I suppose it is. This is a project which we support in conjunction with Sask Power, and the Saskatchewan Research Council runs it on our behalf. This is a program which encourages the adoption of small-scale renewable energies in the province. So if you're a homeowner, or if you live on a ranch, you can receive up to 35% of your costs back for the purchase of up to 100 kilowatt system. Now the steps for installing wind and solar systems involve completing an interconnection agreement with Sask Power. And the idea is that under this program, if you generate any power, any net power after you've used it internally in your own home, that excess power can be returned back to the Sask Power grid, and Sask Power currently gives you a credit on your bill for the amount of power you generated at standard market rates that they charge. We've just had a round of funding call for applications. We've spent to date on this program about $5 million from the Ministry of Environment side. Sask Power has put in an additional amount, of course. There are a wide range of technologies that are eligible for this program. Wind and solar. We've seen a resurgence in solar in the province. In fact, the majority of applications, about 80–90% of applications to the program in the most recent call have been in PV solar systems. Small-scale wind and micro wind are starting to taper off a little bit. But other technologies that are eligible, but we haven't seen yet adopted in the province, include biomass, heat reclamation, flare gas reclamation, and I think that pretty well covers the eligible technologies. But wind and solar are the ones that we've seen the majority of.
A quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Is this individual homeowners?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Now you have to pay attention to bylaws, right? So you have to, if you live in the city, you've got to watch what the cities might have to say about a 30-meter tower or something. But yeah, it is, and we've seen, I think we're pushing about 350 installations across the province. And I don't have the updated numbers in my head, but a very significant capacity, and I think the average works out to about installed capacity about 3 watts per person in the province. So it's a relatively aggressive program. Not sure when the next call for installations will be. We have to wait till we get out of this budget cycle, and the budget's announced in April, but we're hoping to continue the program, but it will depend on what the government has to say about it. Yes, sir? Is there different solar panel quality? Yeah, there is. We typically advise customers to make sure they really look at the technology they're buying. Solar tends to be a little bit more stable, we've seen in some of the analysis. So I don't think there's a large variability in the quality of solar, but certainly there is a significant variability we're noticing in the small wind program. And a significant variability in performance quality of the systems, and a significant variability in the installed cost per kilowatt hour, what it works out to over the lifetime. So we're aware of that. We recently completed a pretty significant study with a consulting company who has expertise in these kinds of systems, and they've asked that, or suggested that we implement a quality control and quality assurance program to help address some of those issues, and we have recommendations to that effect in front of government right now, and they'll get back to us presumably when the budget is settled for next year. So it's something we're looking at helping the industry sort out.
So you're going to have reports on different not systems, but in solar.
Yeah, the Saskatchewan Research Council runs the program for us, so they're the keepers of the intricate data. We don't keep the data on performance of specific manufacturers' technologies. We have aggregate performance data, and when SRC gives it to us, we just know that this particular turbine, albeit we don't know from which manufacturer, doesn't perform well. And the reason is government typically doesn't like to get in the business of choosing winners and losers, right? So we incent the marketplace, but you really as a customer have to be sure that you do your homework and look at the history of a particular technology. Okay? Any more questions about this net metering program? It's pretty popular. But it is expensive for us. And remember I talked about cost effectiveness. We estimate that this is costing us about $200 a ton of CO2 removed, which is rather expensive. So yeah, that's net metering. And
but it continues to be popular, Jeff, is that right?
It is. Yeah, we've seen an escalation of the number of applications. Yeah. The challenge for us is to make sure that we have appropriate budget appropriations in play, that we can continue funding it to the level of demand. And sometimes with these incentive programs, we don't have the ability to do that, right? Because people want more beds in hospitals and they want better highways. And so it's a challenge. And environment, of course, as you know, is always fighting for money, and that's the situation we're in. So we're hoping it will continue. But there are some other programs offered by SaskPower that I'll allude to a little bit later for larger scale installations that people can take advantage of as well. This is an interesting community project. The city of Regina came to us with this proposal for a hydraulic launch assist garbage truck. The idea here is, I know it's not homeowner related, but it's still an interesting R&D project. Instead of the garbage truck engaging the diesel engine every time it stops from one point to pick up garbage to the next bin to pick up garbage, what the truck does is charges a hydraulic cylinder, and the truck relies on the charge in the hydraulic cylinder to propel it from one pickup point to the next. And the city of Regina is currently running this garbage truck around the city right now and has been doing so for just under a year. And the project's really meant to be the first cold weather test in North America. It's technology from Eaton. It's a retrofitted garbage truck from Peterbilt. And we're seeing preliminary data showing that at least a 25% increase in fuel efficiency of the garbage truck is being had. So if you take that and you take the 8 tons per year that the garbage truck avoids in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and you multiply that across the size of the city of Regina's fleet, if they adopt the technology across the whole fleet, you multiply that by the number of municipalities with garbage trucks in operation, and you take the 15-20 year lifetime of the garbage truck, you're looking at very significant greenhouse gas reductions as a result of a simple modification to a, and of course you can apply it to city buses, you can apply it to all sorts of things. So it was an interesting pilot study, and we're pretty pleased that the technology is proving pretty well. This is another significant investment for us. The federal government, as you may know, is coming down with some pretty hefty and significant regulations with respect to greenhouse gas emissions in the province. And in particular, coal-fired plants. There are 3 or 4 of SaskPower, of course, are under the gun here to negotiate either an equivalency agreement or some sort of reduction in performance standard for coal plants. But One of the strategies that the provincial government is employing to address greenhouse gas emissions from coal plants is this AquaStore project. And this is sponsored by the Petroleum Technology Research Center of the University of Regina and a couple of other industry supporters. And it was going to be originally, the test center was going to be the Consumer Cooperative Refinery, or at least the source of the carbon dioxide. But the site has since changed to the Boundary Dam Power Plant in Estevan. So SaskPower is currently constructing a CO2 capture facility, which is based on a proprietary shell technology. They take the flue gas from the power plant, they run it through these scrubbers, they capture the carbon dioxide. And our investment here in AquaStore then is to take the carbon dioxide and inject it into a deep saline aquifer formation just near the power plant. And it will be something on the order of 3 kilometers deep with layers and layers of cap rock. So our investment is to conduct the research through the PTRC to ensure that the system is safe, reliable, and that it maintains the carbon dioxide underground. This is a very significant achievement for the province. It's one of the first, if not only, demonstration facilities for deep saline aquifer storage of carbon dioxide. And stay tuned, because I think you're going to see some announcements soon. Yes, sir.
I just had a question. I'm not fully understanding the whole carbon capture program.
Okay.
You're capturing the carbon, putting it deep in the earth.
Yeah.
And then what are we storing it for? What do you want to do with it?
Nothing. It stays.
Just stays there?
Yeah. Now, in the AquaStore project, it stays and it's there, right? You don't use it. But SaskPower does have other interests and reasons for installing their capture portion. So there's the capture technology, and then there's the storage technology. AquaStore was about storage. SaskPower does hope that some of the carbon dioxide they capture, they can sell for the purposes of enhanced oil recovery in the Mid-Dell area. So of course you inject CO2 in oil operations, and that helps you recover. And we're still looking at the arithmetic of how much CO2 is actually sequestered and stays in the ground as a result of enhanced oil recovery. But there's really 2 purposes for SaskPower to look at, so capture anyway. But a deep saline aquifer is meant to go down and stay down. Water leak detection. This is more of a municipal issue, but of course with the freeze-thaw cycles we've had here in the last couple of months, water mains in the cities break quite often. And where you see the water percolating on the surface of a pavement isn't necessarily where the leak is, and it can cost municipalities a significant amount to dig up the pavement and find exactly where the water main break is. So there's a technology that came out of Ecotech research, and it had been tested in advance with Agriculture Canada. But this technology uses electromagnetic waves to find exactly where the leak in the water mains is occurring, and that enables municipalities to more cost-effectively identify the leak, dig it up, and fix it. And the conservation here, if this technology were to be deployed and if it leads to cost-effective repairs, something on the order of 32 million cubic meters of water annually, depending on the size of these leaks. So this was an interesting, somewhat related to climate change adaptation. Here's one for homeowners, of course. You may know about this provincial toilet replacement program. The Saskatchewan, so we provide the money for this program, but it's administered by the Saskatchewan Watershed Authority just down the road. If you replace one of your high flush toilets in your home, 13-liter flush toilet with a dual flush, or your 6-liter toilet, you get a $50 rebate from the province. So we were hoping originally to replace 200,000 toilets across the province. That was our original target, and I think we dedicated something on the order of $11 million to this initiative a few years back. We're not even near 25% of that yet, and the program is supposed to run to the end of this calendar year. Nonetheless, though, if the amount of toilets that we have in place, we estimate something in the order of 15 million liters a year. It's a crazy number. It's incredibly cost effective for us to do this $50 rebate. And it also turns out that because you're not treating the potable water, you're not using electricity associated with that potable water, and it also turns out that as a result of the program, we're getting significant greenhouse gas reductions because you're avoiding the treatment costs associated with potable water. So this actually turns out, I hate to say it, but it turns out to be more cost effective for us in terms of greenhouse gas reductions than the net metering program. So that was a bit of a surprise to us. This project came to us in their last open call, and we recently announced it. Again, not related to the homeowner, although it could be in time. But here, Eat Healthy Foods in Regina had this idea to use outdoor ambient air to cool their refrigerators and freezers in the grocery store. And I can't talk to you about the technology because he's hoping, obviously, to market it and sell it to large grocery stores. But the idea is really simple. When it's cold outside, you draw the air into your coolers and freezers, monitor it continuously to ensure that the food remains at safe temperatures, and then in the summer months, you go back to the compressors to generate your cold air. And as a result, you can imagine significant greenhouse gas savings as a result of that simple project. So, a small amount to us, $36,000 in funding, but the intent here, if you know the gentleman who runs Eat Healthy Foods, he's quite an interesting guy, and I'm sure that if the technology proves successful, we're going to see this across the province. Again, not a homeowner project, but significant users of water in the province include industrial customers. So we have a project with Ground Effects Environmental and Evraz Steel. Evraz uses typically a lot of potable water in their production process. So this project will demonstrate the Ground Effects technology for industrial wastewater use at Evraz over a period of, I can't remember what the duration is. I think it's about a year and a half project. But if you can reuse industrial wastewater instead of relying on potable water, you're talking about 198 million liters of water per year saved at Evraz as a result of this one piece of technology, which is relatively cost effective for us. Remember I talked about education and awareness projects. We've had a tough time finding projects that really fit the bill. This one worked. It's a Native Plants in the Classroom project to really raise awareness about native plants across the province and to develop specific curriculum material that will be distributed to schools across the province. So this is one of our few education and awareness projects, but we have a couple of other contracts that we're currently negotiating from our last call. So watch for more announcements. There's another education and awareness project in there that I'm hoping, if the contract negotiation is successful, we'll be able to launch probably in midsummer. Okay, so across government, there's the Green Initiatives Fund, or the Go Green Fund, but there's also the Go Green label, which is a label attached to all of the initiatives across government on greening operations and such. So I'm going to talk here about incentive programs that are run by other agencies across government, not from the fund specifically. So I have to say a disclaimer here. I'm going to give you this information, but you got to check with with the agency that runs the program to get all of the details and to clarify the dates of when these sorts of incentives expire. So you may know about the small scale power producers program. This complements the net metering program. But really, if you're interested in generating your own power up to 100 kilowatts, you can enter into a power purchase agreement with SaskPower. The program applies to wind and solar, much like the net metering program does. And what you do, as I said, is you negotiate a power purchase agreement with SaskPower, which isn't always easy, but nonetheless is possible. And the information on that program is listed here on the website. But if you Google SaskPower Green Options Program, you'll find it. So if there's homeowners out there interested in generating 100K, this may be an option for them. This is a program that's run by SaskPower as well. Again, check on the validity and making sure that the program's still running. But this is an incentive program for solar or wind power water pumps, particularly for livestock operations, an example. But you can get 50% of the costs as long as you've incurred more than $500, and you could get these rebates to incent the purchase of these water and solar powered water pumps. And again, SaskPower runs that program, and the information's on their website. Commercial geothermal rebates. So if you're a commercial entity and you're interested in using ground source heat pump technology, which I think you probably heard about from Brian Brunskill earlier in the session, there is this program available from SaskPower. It's administered jointly with SaskPower and the Saskatchewan Research Council, but there's all kinds of program criteria, so you have to go to their website and look at what's eligible and what isn't. You can also negotiate geothermal power loans through SaskPower's DSM or Demand Side Management Program. As long as you're a resident and you've installed a geothermal system in your home, or if you're doing a retrofit, I suppose, is also eligible, but you can get $1,000 to $50,000 back for installation of, or not back, but you can get a reduced loan. I think, what do they say here, about 3.5%. So check on that with SaskPower. Energy efficiency rebate for new homes is a program that the fund currently supports through Sask Energy. If you're a new homeowner or you're building a new home and you're building it to a variety of standards, Energy Star R2000 and EnerGuide with a rating of 80 or above, you can get a variety of incentives back from Sask Energy, and it's technology specific. So if you install technology X, you get X amount back from Sask Energy. So that program is running at least until the end of this fiscal year, and we're working on arrangements here to possibly continue it. EnerGuide for Homes program is a program that the fund used to pay for. Now it's coming out of the Crown Investments Corporation directly in Sask Energy. You're probably familiar with this. The feds keep announcing the program, and then they discontinue it, and then they announce an extension, and then they discontinue it. And what I've recently heard is that the feds have now said they're at their maximum subscription capacity, and so the federal portion for rebates on replacing windows in your home, replacing your furnace, the federal portion's gone, but the provincial program's still running. Again, administered by Sask Energy. They have a detailed list of what technologies and what retrofits you can make and how much each is eligible for a rebate. So check with them. In addition, there's a PST exemption program if you're purchasing energy efficient household appliances, and I believe that's at the point of sale. But details on that, again, are at the SaskPower website. That was the list of programs that we have, and stay tuned because we have some exciting R&D projects coming up again. And if you have any questions, there's my email. I also have some cards, and I'll be happy to answer any of them that you may have now. No?
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Just quick, maybe talk to you more afterwards, but I'm interested in exploring the education, public awareness option there. I have something that might qualify, but I need to talk to you or somebody about it.
So in cases like that, you give our office a call. We have 3 project managers who specialize in different areas. One guy specializes in energy solutions, another one specializes in community infrastructure. The person I'd put you in touch with specifically deals with education and awareness programs. She's a former teacher by training. So if you have a project idea, call the office, and then we'll scope it out, see what the idea looks like, give you a sense of whether or not it would compete successfully in a future call for proposals. Typically also what we've been doing in that case is if you have a project idea and you want to get it into our project inventory, we'll ask you for the 4-page letter of intent, put it in the inventory, and then when we've got a public call announced more formally, we pull them out, and then it saves you a bit of a step anyway. Or at least you get a jump on the process, yeah. So call our offices and I'll give you my card. You can give us a shout.
Thank you.
Sir.
The geothermal heat pump program stuff.
Yeah.
Has anybody done a calculation on whether that actually decreases greenhouse gas emissions? Because I'm curious how you can change heating to electricity where you burn stuff, make electricity, send it there, and then convert it back to heat instead of just burning stuff that burns.
Okay, so geothermal for the purposes of heating versus geothermal for the purposes of electrical generation. These were geothermal programs for the purposes of heating.
Right.
Okay.
So they're taking electricity to run heat pumps.
Yes.
To make heat.
Yes.
And electricity is made by burning coal.
Yes. Well, depending on your jurisdiction, but here predominantly, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So the question is whether or not the pumps are whether you're generating more greenhouse gas emissions through the use of the ground source heat pump than you are actually
Right.
saving as a result of Yeah, well, that's an interesting question.
It's not like it's a statement.
Yeah, no, it's a statement. And it's a very good statement. I don't have an answer for that. I typically haven't worked in the ground source heat pump technology. We were interested from the ministry's perspective. Remember, that program is with Sask Energy, right? We're interested in deep geothermal energy
That makes
systems,
sense.
right? Deep geothermal is completely different beast, right? And
But you're getting
one of the contracts I'm potentially negotiating here deals with looking at those kinds of issues for deep geothermal. So I can't say much more about that, but yeah, I think deep geothermal probably has a little bit better greenhouse gas reduction returns than ground source heat pump. Nonetheless, you're not using natural gas through ground source heat pump, and I suppose there's an argument to be made that you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but I'll let you work out the economics on that. Yeah. Yeah. Sir?
Throughout the presentation, there's a mention of reduced greenhouse gases emissions through a variety of, the adoption of a variety of technologies. I'm curious as to what the end game of the province is in that regard.
Yeah.
I have never seen any stated targets, for example, of reduced greenhouse gases or anything to that effect. And I'm wondering if there are some.
Yes, there are.
Where can I find them?
Yeah, there are. I have to get back to you on the specific reference to that. The Greenhouse Gas Management Reductions Act was passed in the House a few years back. It has yet to be proclaimed. And the reason it's not proclaimed is because the feds are now coming in, of course, as well, and we have a jurisdictional issue that we have to sort out, right? But yes, the stated provincial target is 20% greenhouse gas reductions relative to 2006 baseline year by 2020.
Where are we?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a different issue. Yeah. So, but don't undermine the importance of the demand-side management programs that SaskPower has at play. I mean, they're estimating that by 2015, I believe is the number, they're hoping to save 100 megawatts of power just through conservation initiatives alone. Yeah, but the greenhouse gas reduction target of the province is ambitious, and we are really knee-deep in negotiating or developing the policy, right? And I'm telling you, we have a small unit, and it's literally exhausting working on this issue, but we are working on it. What's happening with the federal government, just to give you a bit more detail, is the federal government's coming out with a series of performance standards for a variety of sectors. The first one they announced was a performance standard for coal plants across the country. And the standard turns out to be, it's an emission standard, turns out to be equivalent to a natural gas combined cycle plant. So the coal plant has to meet the same emission standards as a natural gas plant, which is really tough to do. If you've ever been to Boundary Dam, you'll see it's a power plant from 1950s and 60s. It's really old looking. So to some extent, SaskPower is betting on the carbon capture and storage approach as a compliance option under the federal program. But what we're doing is seeing how the provincial program, which includes a variety of mechanisms, including, the stated reduction schedules of 2% annually, 2 to 3% annually, possibles for offsets, not sure what's happening there, possibility for performance agreements. So we have a few more mechanisms at play than a direct performance standard that the federal government is hoping to impose on the province, which really compromises the competitiveness here. So we're working on it. Hope that helped. And give you the source. It's the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Act. I think it states where the reduction schedule is.
In view of discussions earlier, for example, obviously, the construction industry, housing and buildings and so forth do account for a significant amount of energy that's used in Canada.
That's right.
And that newer buildings can be built much better.
Right.
And I think commercial buildings are actually probably progressing faster than residential buildings in terms of their improvements.
Yeah.
Where in provincial government does it lie to affect major change at future developments, i.e. changes in building codes that are truly advanced as opposed to slightly incremental?
Yeah. Well, you hit the question, didn't you?
That was my intent.
Yeah, no, you put me on the spot with this one.
Just curious, you know.
Yeah, no, and I have sort of an answer for you, okay? Provincial building codes, as you know, are administered through corrections and public safety, right? So the federal corrections, yeah, I forget the whole name of the ministry, but they're the ones responsible for the building code. The question we have before government today, and we do have the question before them, is who's responsible for making the policy decision on the adoption of an energy efficiency code? Because there's the 2012 code coming out, energy efficiency code for buildings, that could very well be part of the energy code, right? Or, sorry, the building code for the province. We don't have an answer on that yet. So we're working on that. But codes is one thing, right? And I think it would be a very effective approach to minimizing energy use in both the commercial and the private sector. But in addition to that, one of the things we're looking at under the climate change legislation is the provision for performance agreements. So if a community or a municipality banded together and said, at the municipal level, here's what we expect in terms of energy efficiency from our public buildings or from new subdivisions, then under the provincial framework for climate change, there is the possibility that they would be eligible for credit. And those credits in turn could be marketed in the carbon exchange market, which is still up and coming. But your question about building codes is a very good one. I don't have an answer for you yet. There are some thoughts about having the Ministry of Environment maintain the policy direction there, but I think it really, belongs with corrections because they're the keepers of the code as a whole. So we'll let you know. The decision to adopt that code isn't required immediately yet anyway. It's not released yet. So. Yes?
My son-in-law for his greenhouses has purchased a biomass furnace using agricultural waste.
Yes.
And you may have covered this, but can he get a rebate on that? Or is that in the works?
Well, I think biomass power is eligible under the net metering program. We've never had one apply before. I think it may be possible to generate a rebate under net metering, although we're not currently putting new projects into the queue for the net metering program until the new fiscal year, and we have a decision on the future of that program. But conceivably, it would be eligible, I think. Yeah, I think biomass is one of those options, but you have to check with the administrator. Any other questions? Okay. How do we do for time?
To a plan that we produced.
Much longer than I thought.
The other thing is that we're going to be essentially presenting a floor plan that we've come up with. We've got hard copies of it, being that this is a green conference. If you want to grab one from us, you're more than welcome to. I don't think we have enough for everyone. We've also got a website that you can download the plan from, and we'll be showing it on the screen here. So it's up to you if you want a hard copy or not. And we'll start in about 5 minutes. All right, well, we'll get going here and just give ourselves a quick introduction. My name is Troy Tilbury. This is my wife and business partner, Braylon Tilbury, and we run Tilbury Design Limited, which is a design firm here in Moose Jaw. And today we're here to introduce you to Regen Urban Developments. And just wanted to clarify before we get going here, when we call this a design charrette, we're not going to be breaking out the easels with paper and markers, any of that kind of stuff. This is more of a critique kind of charrette. So essentially what we're doing is giving you guys an opportunity to put us on blast, and you know, you can boo and heckle our design if you like, and scream out profanities, whatever you like. So this is more the charrette that we're after here. Okay, so Regen Urban Developments. Basically, I'll start by doing an overview of what our performance is going to be today. So first of all, we'll start talking about what is regen urban developments. We'll talk a little bit about new urbanism and the philosophies behind that. We'll talk about high performance homes. Talk about affordability, features of a regen urban home, an introduction to our plan, and then we'll get into some discussion about our plan. I'm going to try and juggle three things here. So what does regen stand for? Well, simply regen is short for regenerate. And what we feel is that cities are constantly evolving, especially Moose Jaw here. As neighborhoods transition, there's potential opportunities for regeneration within communities, within cities, for urban development and so forth. As a company, we stand for this philosophy that things are ever evolving. Now, the first principle that our company is based on is new urbanism. So we'll talk a little bit about new urbanism. Now, would you rather live in a city that looks like this, where you have busy streets, human scale, kind of buildings on the streets, lots of green space, or would you rather live in this? Now, this is a quote actually from, it's probably a good idea here to quote my boss when I'm at SciAst here. This is actually from Rod Stutt. And he says that many of us live in suburbs where a 20-minute walk would take us nowhere other than some gas station or convenience store. And quite honestly, that's true in some of the bigger cities. And I can see a lot of people kind of looking at me saying, well, we live in Moose Jaw. This couldn't happen in Moose Jaw.
Through town.
Well, that's right, yeah, 20 minutes you can get through town. Could this happen in Moose Jaw? Well, I feel if we keep developing the way that we're developing, it certainly could. So we'll talk a little bit about the principles of new urbanism. Now, Philip went over a few of these yesterday. They used some of the same principles when they were developing that Regent Park in Toronto that he presented about. So when we talk about new urbanism, we talk about walkability, connectivity, mixed use and diversity, mixed housing, quality architecture and urban design, traditional neighborhood structure, increased density, smart transportation, sustainability, and quality of life. So these are the principles of new urbanism. So what does it look like? Well, it might look like this, where you have some single-family homes kind of spaced closely together, mixed in with some multi-family homes, maybe multi-story. Might look like this, some of the pictures that we saw earlier, where there's streetscapes. You've got, living above Main Street shops and so forth. There's trees mixed in there. Very walkable streets, very, very pedestrian friendly. Or it could look like this. Downtown Moose Jaw, when you think about all the principles that are involved with new urbanism, we can actually cross off quite a few of them when we look at downtown Moose Jaw. So what I'd like to argue is that new urbanism could be considered old urbanism, where we look at the way that cities were designed, 100 years ago. They were designed for density, they were designed for walkability, they were designed, to be pedestrian friendly and so forth. Mainly at the time, they didn't really have a choice, right? But you look at a picture like this of downtown Moose Jaw, and I'm guessing this is maybe 1920s-ish, and you look at how many people are out and how bustling the downtown is and how vibrant it seems back then, right? You look at another picture of downtown Moose Jaw, and this is probably about the same time. And same thing, you look at all the people, it's very vibrant, and it seems like these are the kind of communities that we want to live in now. Here's another picture of downtown Moose Jaw. I mean, once again, very vibrant, lots of people out. This is probably about the 40s. Any car buffs in the audience would probably be able to tell me how old that car is, but I'm guessing about the 40s or 50s in that range.
50s.
50s, there we go.
48.
1948, okay, so we narrowed it down.
Spring 48.
Now, I guess the thing we have to keep in mind too is that obviously things have changed a lot since 1910. There have been a few advances in technology 1910, to be social, if you wanted to get out, and you couldn't sit at home and watch TV, right? So people got out to entertain themselves, to be social. Nowadays we have social media, so people can be social by tweeting and being on Facebook, right? So things have changed, but I do believe that people do really want to be out in communities where they can feel that vibrance. And in a recent planning session we went through with the city of Moose Jaw, I think that was one of the topics that came up. People wanted to live in a vibrant city. Now let's look at this in a different way. This is some data taken from the United States Green Building Council. And when we talk about urban density, so 8 density units per acre, so this is a standard suburban neighborhood. We could say the CO2 emissions are over 8,000. If we look at a more dense neighborhood, we've cut those emissions in half simply by not relying so much on transportation, creating buildings that are maybe a little bit more people-sized, and using less materials. Okay, so increasing density and kind of keeping things close together. We've cut carbon emissions almost in half. Now, I'll talk a little about high performance. And I'm going to be quite honest with you, the concept of high performance, I was at a conference in Saskatoon. There was a gentleman there from Jigsaw Homes in Calgary named Corey Kreider, and I've essentially stolen this concept from him. Okay, so I'm going to admit that right now. High performance when we look in the 70s. This was high performance when it came to the automobile industry. We see 6,000 RPM for less than $3,000, okay? This was a high performance car. Now, Cam Dupuis made the comment yesterday that we look at houses built in the 70s, and the term he used was energy pigs, which I think is about accurate. So this was high performance in the 70s. Here's another example of a car ad. We made it hot, 429 V8. You can make it scream. This is high performance in the 70s. Look at this guy down here. I can guarantee he went on a lot of dates in his day. Now we look at high performance nowadays, right? So this is a Ford ad that we found in the local newspaper. So now they're saying high performance is measured in miles per gallon. Okay, so the car industry has made that shift, but the housing industry isn't quite there yet, but I think we're working on it. Another term I want to discuss is greenwashing. Now, does everyone here know what the term greenwashing means? Okay, so here's a quick comment. Someone asked, how do I know your company's environmentally friendly? And the salesman said, the wording, the typeface, the pictures, the nature of the brochure. Okay, that's how we're green. Here are some, I guess, rules of greenwashing. So I won't go through them in detail, but we're talking fluffy language and all sorts of gobbledygook, that kind of stuff, right? So to be honest, if we're going to market a product, I'm afraid to market it green. I don't want to say that my houses are green because I don't want to be lumped in with all the other stuff that's green. So that's why we're choosing the term high performance, because we feel that it's a better description of what we're trying to achieve here. Now let's talk a little bit about affordability. And obviously a lot of debate goes on about what is an affordable house, right? So here's a quick, and I just did this morning. So based on the City of Moose Jaw's housing program, where they will, in partnership with the provincial government, contribute up to $10,000 for the down payment of a house. Now to qualify for that, you have to have a family income of $60,000 or under. So I popped those into TD Canada Trust, their mortgage calculator, and we end up with a house price of about $265,000, okay, and a mortgage payment of monthly mortgage payment of about $1,400. So this kind of defines what an affordable house is. And when we talk about affordable housing, we say 1,000 square foot bungalow can be built for $200,000, add land. So we're kind of in that range. Now, what I wanted to see was, if you put a secondary suite in, and there's programs from the provincial government where they will contribute up to half of the cost to put a secondary suite in, but there's rent caps on there. So if we say a 2-bedroom suite, we can rent that out for $921 a month. Okay, so we take that, we multiply it by 12, and then basically you're allowed to claim up to half that to go towards your income to qualify. Okay, so that brings our income from $60,000 to $65,260 annually. And it brings our mortgage price up to $291,000.
And just an interjection, would that negate the program that the city of Moose Jaw has, if you do that?
I've got to find out.
Okay.
Probably. So now we're at $291,000. TD Canada Trust, and I'm not trying to single them out or anything, I don't work for TD, but they do offer what they call a green mortgage. Now what this green mortgage entails is, first of all, a rate discount. So they'll knock 1% off the rate of a house. They'll give you a cash rebate of up to 1% of the amount of the mortgage that you can put towards Energy Star appliances or Energy Star solar panels. Okay? Plus they'll donate $100 to the Friends of TD Environment. So if we build to green, and in Saskatchewan they say the minimum is Energy Star, how will that affect? If we take 1% off our mortgage, brings us up to $324,000. Okay? So this is kind of the number that we're playing with. This is the number we'd like to hit when we try to market these duplexes. But I just wanted to stop for a sec and put this in perspective. So $291,000 is what we started with, and this is just your average built house. As soon as we hit Energy Star, you can now qualify for $324,000. So there's $33,000 you have access to. Now, your monthly payments don't change at all. So $1,540, $1,540. Okay? So the interest rate, it's not affecting the bottom line of your mortgage at all, but you have an extra $33,000 just by building a greenhouse. Ken?
I'm gonna have to put a plug in for CMHC on this because I see.
Plus you get, okay, I got this one. I got this one.
Okay, you okay?
Plus you get a 1% or 10%
Rebate on the insurance.
on the insurance, yeah, on the mortgage loan insurance. So if you have 5% down, then you have to get mortgage loan insurance through CMHC. You get a rebate on that too. Okay? So I just like to say that any builders that tell you it costs a lot more money or it's not cost effective to build green, earmuffs, is bullshit. Quite simply. Here's $30,000 that you have access to if you build green. Okay? $30,000 can put a lot of solar panels on a roof. Alright? So for a builder to say that it doesn't make sense, it's too costly, the way I look at it is builders that aren't building green are costing you money. Okay? Because I mean $324,000 is the max, but maybe the house is, you know, if it's $291 and you put an extra $10,000 into green features, hit Energy Star, your monthly payments go down. So the builders are costing you money. Let's look at it a different way. So our monthly mortgage payment is $1,524. We put the secondary suite in. We can rent that for $921 a month. Difference is $603. So to live in a brand new house with a secondary suite actually costs less than living in a renting a two-bedroom house anywhere in Moose Jaw here. So now we'll talk a bit about the features.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but if you go green on a house, does it do anything to your property taxes? Because they're going to set an assessor, and is he going to assess the house on the fact that it now is green?
Based on the market value.
I believe it's, yeah, based on market value.
Yeah, so now your taxes are going to go up too.
Not a lot, because they don't put near enough market value on those features, to be honest with you. I know because they sell houses. Your taxes won't go up as much as they should.
That's a good point. I mean, we can keep that in mind, but I still think you're going to be ahead of the game in the long run.
Well, you never know with taxes.
Well, let's look at it, okay. No, hold on, let's look at it this way though. A market-built house, okay, once you build green, your utilities drop. So in my estimation, that drop in utilities could counteract that raise in your property tax.
You haven't calculated that yet.
It would actually, I've done that, it would more than. It will
More than? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, property taxes is a percentage of your, I don't know what they're like in Moose Jaw, because you guys would know better, but. So on a $250,000 house, what are your property taxes a year?
Oh, So,
Well, you know, it depends on which part of town you're in too.
yeah, there's a lot of.
You know, like all those things come into it, and boy, sometimes taxes can choke you.
But okay, so it's about 1%, so basically, at $30,000 more, even if they valued it at $30,000 more, 1% of that's $300 a year or whatever, I mean, that's less than 30 months to 25 a month, and that's not even close to how much you'd save if you build the house right.
So some of the features that we'd like to build in the home, first of all, Energy Star, no brainer, like I say. Now, our goal as a company is to be LEED for homes would be our minimum by 2014. And 2017, we'd like to hit net zero as our minimum and still be able to market these houses. Now, Avalon's kind of...
I like your goal there.
Avalon said they'll do the same thing by 2015, but I think they have a little bit more volume discount than we would get right now doing these one at a time. But those are our goals. We'd like to utilize advanced framing techniques to lower construction costs and enhance insulation values. So Eric touched on it a little bit. We'll go through that as well. Our homes are going to be built to last using durable materials, and we've heard that over and over and over throughout. There is no substitute for building with durable materials. You will not find vinyl siding on our houses. There's no way. In my estimation, vinyl siding should be trash. It shouldn't be allowed. We'll design our floor plans using CMHC Flex Home Design principles, and I've asked Cam if he might critique our design based on that, so we'll run through it and see if we actually hit the mark or not. And our homes are to be built healthy with free contaminants. So just a quick note about Energy Star Saskatchewan. So when we say we are going to hit Energy Star, this is what we're talking about. So the house will have an HRV, Energy Star heating, high energy efficient domestic hot water, water saving features, upgraded insulation, reduced air leakage, Energy Star appliances, but the main one I wanted to talk about is the fact that it's going to be third-party certified. So basically Energy Star, they have a blower door test, so they'll certify and they'll put a little sticker on your electric panel that gives you the EnerGuide rating of that house. So
I just don't know, what is the minimum energy requirement for an Energy Star home? Is that a moving target?
I believe it is a moving target.
Oh, it's in
I
there?
think it's in that range. Just a quick talk about advanced framing. So when we say advanced framing, essentially what we're trying to do is eliminate as much wood as possible out of the framing of a house. So we'll line up all the structural members, which will eliminate the need for a double top plate in a house. We'll remove the headers in non-load bearing walls. We will use header clips instead of doubling up studs. One thing, has anyone seen how a bay window is framed? When you go out and look at it, it's like stud, stud, corner, stud, stud, king stud, jack stud, window, king, you get the picture. It's stud, 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 corner, stud, 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 corner, stud, stud, stud. So you won't find bay windows in our houses, okay? Drywall clips, so two stud corner system with drywall clips instead of putting the third stud in there. And what we'll also do is create shop drawings for all the wall framing of our houses, and we'll give these to the framers, and essentially kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So we give them plans on how we want to see these built, and those will all be pre-engineered so that there won't be any issues after during construction.
Do you structural gable trusses too?
Structural gable trusses, yeah, definitely. Flex home principles. So I'll just run through these quick: adaptability, accessibility, affordability, and healthy housing. So these are all concepts that we'll incorporate into the design of our homes. And to run you through our proposed duplex, which is our prototype at this point. And I just want to say quickly too that where we're at right now is we've designed this, we've got it costed, and right now I think we're close to being able to market it at the price that we came up with, but we don't have a lot for it yet. So until we get the land sorted out, we won't know exactly what the final price is going to be. The other thing that we won't know is the orientation until we pick a lot. So we do intend on designing these for solar gain. We'll be sizing our overhangs and everything, but until we know the lot, we can't go too far into that. So the design could change based on the lot, but I'll let Raylyn run you through the design of the duplex. And I'll reluctantly give her the clicker.
I never get the remote. I'm not sure if I'll know how to run this. So basic, maybe I'll just run through the basic floor plan first. Being a duplex, we've got basically 2 identical suites mirrored. Veranda, come into an open foyer, bit of a flex room on the side, could be a home office, could be a room for reading, could be a guest room. We've got large closet space, our stairwell at the core of the building, powder room, and open concept kitchen, dining, living room. Towards the back, we have a separate back entry there, coat closet, storage, and small area for built-in recycling center. Upstairs, come up, we've got an upper laundry room. Our mechanical room is upstairs. We've got it behind a closet, behind the laundry, insulated, so sound transfer shouldn't be an issue. Master suite with attached ensuite, and 2 additional bedrooms upstairs, bathroom, again another large closet area. For the basement suite, how we've got it designed initially, we've got a separate exterior stairwell down to the suite. Again, open living kitchen and small nook area, stacked washer dryer for the tenants. 2-bedroom, bathroom, and again this closet, which we'll get into a little later. Basically, we're trying to market this so at any stage in your life, this home can work for you. And not just at the stage that you're looking for the home, but something that can grow with you through life. Extend the amount of time that you can live and use this home without having to look for alternate accommodations. If accessibility becomes an issue, if you turn into a snowbird and you're gone for half the year, this can help with that. We've seen a lot more, oh, sorry, not used to the mic. We've seen a lot more, especially when we were looking in Calgary. With the cost of homes, it wasn't necessarily always a couple or a family looking for the home. It would be maybe 2 young professionals, each doing their, what's that? Yeah, we were one of them. When we built our first home in Calgary, it was actually Troy and his brother building the home together. So what we can do with this, basically the main floor is the same, and that's your common shared area. But when you get to the upstairs, instead of having it as 1 master suite and 2 secondary bedrooms, we've converted it so you actually have 2 master suites upstairs, basically attaching the second washroom right to the bedroom, and that becomes your second suite. And then what had been a 3rd bedroom can become a small computer area, maybe a secondary area with a couch and a TV, so 2 people can lead their fairly independent lives. And then still having the basement suite, additional income to throw towards your mortgage, 2-bedroom basement suite there. A young family. There you would probably want to see the 2 bedrooms back in place, so we've got that closet bank built back in, separating those 2 rooms, and like initially shown, the bathroom's a shared washroom. Main floor is essentially the same, and the basement can still be your rentable suite. Young family with growing children. Maybe your family's getting larger, you need those rooms in the basement to accommodate your kids and family.
Maybe you need a man cave in the basement.
So basically, that central stairwell, we had just put doors top and bottom. Open that up. If you came into it at this stage, maybe you don't develop the full kitchen suite in the basement. You have now a large rec room and additional bedroom down there. Empty nesters. At this stage, maybe you go back to what the initial was. You separate that suite again, and you've got additional income coming in there. Oops. And I guess, sorry, this one could also work with the snowbirds we were saying. You've got an additional suite in your basement, you've got someone to look after your home right there for those months that you're gone. Payments are being made while you're away. So, and in some cases, if the original owner was downsizing, the owners could move into the basement and rent out the upper suite as income. These large closets that I was mentioning earlier off the foyer in the basement and upstairs, these are stacked closets. These can be converted to residential elevators. We've seen this before where people are planning their home they intend to age in. We just build it right in to accommodate you with age. So actually we had a lady, she had bad knees, and that was it. So we put a residential elevator in. And until the point that you need it, basically it's extra storage, and for the most part I don't think we've heard anyone who says they don't need a little extra. With the plan, we've also accommodated so you could add a ramp off the front veranda for the exterior accessibility.
Really, what's the cost of a residential elevator?
Actually, you know that.
They range. I mean, I think you can get into one for around $25,000 in that range. There's a company out of Saskatoon that I believe does it for that price.
Just before you get rid of the design, I just have a couple of questions. So in Moose Jaw, are you able to have a legal secondary suite without separate mechanical and everything too?
It will have separate mechanical.
Okay,
Actually,
I don't see a place for mechanical on the floor plans.
We're going to try and tuck it in. The concept right now, and this is the thing that we wanted to kind of initiate some discussion about, is what should we do for a mechanical system? Right now, we're kind of looking at, it will probably be a radiant system in there, so we might only need like a small boiler plus an HRV to change
for the
air.
basement, you mean?
For the basement, yeah. So we'd probably just tuck that in. Maybe it goes underneath the stairs, or that little closet we've got over here. Potentially, we might even just use that as a utility room if it'll work.
Would work fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about upstairs? Is that forced air?
Forced air right now. Once again, I mean, this is what we want to discuss a little bit about here. But that's kind of what we're seeing. And the reason we put it on the second floor, and I mean, we talked to a few mechanical contractors about it. They said, well, it could work. Is instead of running ducts all the way through your house from, all the way down to the main floor, you put the mechanical room on the second floor, and now you're essentially running one duct in the second floor, and you can blow your air down and blow it up. So save a little bit of duct work there too. So I guess this is where we wanted to get into the critique. So put us on blast. Let us know if you think that we're off base. Heckle and do whatever you like. But we just wanted to kind of initiate a little bit of discussion here too. So the first question we wanted people to kind of discuss a little bit is, what do you look for in a community? When, more so I guess, more in Moose Jaw, what would you look for in Moose Jaw for your community? What's important to you? Does anyone have any ideas?
Availability of stores, both grocery and shopping. I mean, you gotta have clothes and that kind of stuff, so you have to have that.
So the first comment was availability of stores, so being close to stores. Are you thinking more like downtown or like?
In my case, I live on the east side, and the reason I bought it on the east side was because it had little corner stores. It still had little corner stores, which I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people don't care about that. Up in Sunningdale, you don't have a store. Well, I guess you do. Kleins or whatever.
There's one up there, yeah.
But some people want to be able to walk to get a loaf of bread or a jug of milk.
Okay, and that's something that's important to us. So basically, when we're looking for a site, what we're going to do is come up with a checklist, essentially. And it'll have to meet certain criteria. It'll likely be based on the Lead for Homes checklist about connectivity. But we won't build one of these in the suburbs. We don't want it. We're not interested. We want to build these someplace urban where you have that connectivity. Because once again, I mean, we feel it's the bigger picture. And if we can put people closer to the amenities that they need, so you can walk, you don't need your car, it's going to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Right? So it just makes a lot of sense to us.
Yep. Kristen.
Are you guys needing a minimum 50-foot lot for that then?
Question is, do we need a minimum 50-foot lot? The answer is yes. It would be, we've designed it for a 50-foot lot. it also has to meet zoning, and that's kind of an issue right now in the city, is that it would have to be zoned R2, and there aren't an abundance of R2 zoned lots right now that would suit this. So it could be a little while before we find a lot that's suitable for this. And then the other thing that you know, we're looking at too is what do you do? Do we tear down a house, or you know? So I guess what we're looking at is if the house is in very rough shape, then yeah, we probably proceed with tearing it down. But another thought that we've had is, and we're just kind of evaluating if this is feasible right now or not, would be to move an existing house off-site. So, you know, perhaps we can purchase a lot, say, around Crake or something like that, or maybe, you know, one of the, up at Regina Beach, there's some economical lots for sale. So perhaps, if it makes business sense, we can take a house from Moose Jaw, put a foundation, put the services in, move it to the lake, sell it, and then use that money to put towards the land costs in Moose Jaw. So something we're investigating right now. We don't know if it's gonna work or not, but we think there's some potential for that. So.
Just a thought on that. Somebody brought that idea up yesterday. I think it was Philip, recouping costs by selling the old buildings. Mm-hmm. Isn't that just making it somebody else's problem, not really doing anything for the environment? No, we definitely fix it up. Okay. And the way we look at it is we're recycling a house essentially, because we wouldn't just take an old crap house, move it on a site, and just call it a day. We'd be upgrading that house too, and that's where obviously it would have to meet certain criteria. We don't want something that's too far gone. We do want something that you know, you could still make efficient. It might not be as efficient as, you know, what we're proposing here, but you know, we're definitely not going to leave someone with any problems. That's for sure. I'm just curious if there's a net overall gain by doing that as opposed to just renovating that house there that's already in that area. If you're going to renovate the house anyway. Well, the problem right now is the fact that in Moose Jaw, I mean, even to find a small house that tear down, I mean, $100,000 is kind of what you're looking at, right? So what we're thinking is if you pay an extra $50,000 and get a house that's not in bad shape and move it off, and maybe the whole process costs $100,000, so now you're at $250,000. If you can sell that house for $250,000, then essentially you've got free land to build. If you've got it, yeah, more to make it a wash, but to make that property available too. So. And right now, I mean, we budgeted land into the cost of this duplex, but you know, if we come in less, then you know we can sell them for less. So it's going to be interesting. Like I say, we haven't gone completely down that road yet, but it's just something that we're looking at. How wide is it? 40 feet? Is that 42.
So how many square feet have you calculated for each one of these?
The question was how many square feet. Essentially, we've designed it 800 square feet per floor. Okay, so...
the other thing you might want to be conscious of, I don't know about the stores, but most of the parking would be critical as well.
Yes, and because we have a basement suite, we need to make sure that there are enough parking stalls. The one thing that we haven't allowed for in this, too, is a garage. So, I mean, that could be detrimental to some buyers, but other buyers might look at it and say, oh, you know, I can buy a garage kit and slap it together myself. So that's something we're looking at as well.
A thought I had, when you talk about when you're focusing on community specifically, I think so often focus, oh my gosh, so often the focus for building homes is privacy, and it's you know, making sure that we've got our homes, that your home is the place that you go for privacy, that you're not interacting with people. And I think what really adds to community is if you have the privacy of your home, but you also have the ability to interact with the community. So whether that's a porch, you know, a place that you can sit and watch passersby, or even backyard interaction. And so I wonder, with the two, with the duplex units side by side, I noticed that you would sort of offset them for privacy. And I wonder if there's an opportunity either in the front or the back to somehow encourage the, I guess, open up the possibility for community interaction a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, to be honest with you, we were having this conversation last night, and you know, the comment I made is, living in suburban Calgary, when you're driving down the street, all you see is garages, right? I mean, that's the way all the new suburbs are designed. Garage is the first thing you see, and they're usually stuck out and ugly, and you know, just going to the concept of removing the garage from the front, in my mind, makes the whole house a lot more friendly, a lot more inviting. But certainly we could look at doing a little bit more of a porch area or something like that in the front, and encouraging. That's exactly what we're trying to achieve here, is to encourage that interaction with the community. And we feel in the suburbs that's kind of taken away. When we lived in our house, our neighbors, I mean, we'd see them every morning and wave to them as we're pulling out of the garage, and then pulling in, we'd wave to them. Never had an opportunity to talk to them, right? So this way, I mean, we're trying to create that.
Especially in the winter when it was cold. They'd drive in, you go into your house from the garage, and then you don't leave till the next morning when you hop back in your car, pull out of the garage. So yeah, you were kind of, I mean, we lived there for 3 years, well, 5 years, and it was some of our neighbors, I mean, we got to know a couple of the neighbors, but many of them you didn't even see. We didn't know who lived in that house 2 doors down because we never saw them. So.
I think we knew the neighbors behind us better because the houses were so close together that you'd be up in the morning and one had window treatments on, so you'd be waving the guy in the underwear across the street. No back alleys or anything, right? So the house is just
one fence.
A little
That
fence.
kind of makes like the houses in the avenues and the old areas, they're pretty popular. Right? They're so friendly.
Well, this is the thing, and when we talk about the principles of new urbanism, and you look at the way that's what the argument we're trying to make is if you look at Moose Jaw, the way it was designed or the way it is now, I mean, you could take some of those principles and implement them. I mean, we talked last night about the things that drew us to Moose Jaw. One of them was the fact that, I mean, we went from a street in suburban Calgary where it was pretty much just asphalt and vinyl when you look down, to a place where you come here and you have these beautiful, umbrella tree streets. And like I say, a lot of interaction, people out everywhere. These are the things that drew us here. And, what we're trying to do is create that opportunity for other people. So that's exactly what we're trying to do with this project is find areas like that around the city that we can put those in. Maybe some decrepit houses, but give people the ability to live this way. And sorry, just one sec. I guess the other thing that we're trying to provide here too is flexibility. We're not knocking the builders who are out building in the suburbs doing their own thing. Keep on doing that, right? What we're trying to do here is provide people another option. Give them a choice. If they want to live in that suburban house, hey, go for it. But right now in Moose Jaw, we don't feel you have this choice. So we're trying to provide that. We think there's a market for it. Oh, sorry, actually, Glenn, you had a question.
It sounds like your concept is sort of that neighborhood interaction on the front side, private space on the back side.
Yeah, along those lines, yeah. Basically, it would be private space. Obviously, the garage may take up a little bit, but there'd be enough room for, some grass and a patio, that kind of thing. We did design a deck off the back as well. So yeah, I know what entertaining in the back, and then we still want to keep it open and everything in the front and accessible to the community. And like I say, I mean, the neighborhoods that we're looking to put these in are closer to downtown. So once again, you can take advantage of all the amenities and be able to walk to downtown and get your food, walk to Safeway, and then walk home. So that's what we're really trying to encourage is trying to keep these things as close to the amenities as possible.
And there's the safety and security for when you have little kids.
Definitely, definitely.
Sorry, just on that with safety and security, when we first came to town and living on a very narrow street in the avenues, and people would comment, oh, one of these narrow streets, hard to drive by. We've got a 2-year-old, we're like, this is great. No one can go racing down this street because it's too tight to do that. So it automatically slowed the traffic down, and yeah, we didn't find that to be a detriment at all.
So have you taken into consideration the direction your house is facing and using passive solar?
The question was, have we taken passive solar or the orientation of the house into consideration? The question is, not yet. Well, we will. When we find the land, then we will certainly take that into consideration. Right now, I mean, and we'll talk, maybe the next thing is what you look for in a home, and maybe talk about some of the things that we learned in this conference and the technologies and so forth. So what we're looking at right now is we'd like to make this, as far as photovoltaics go, we'd like to make it PV ready. At this point, we want to make sure that we can hit that affordability. So I don't know if a PV system would work, but it'll definitely be solar ready. So we'd put that conduit in from the mechanical room to the roof, so that if anyone wanted to put PVs in down the road, they could certainly do that. We would like to look at a solar hot water system as a standard. Now there's some grants available out there, so that is something that we are interested in looking at and making that a standard, that the house at the very minimum would have some sort of renewable energy, likely a solar hot water system or something like that built into it. Just maybe a very basic system that would preheat your domestic hot water or something like that. So maybe we can ask, are there any other technologies that people think we should investigate?
This is the technology, but one thing that I really liked on houses, like I lived in a few houses with an enclosed front sun porch. And that's really nice because it extends the winter so much. And it's kind of a transitional space between public and private. So your neighbors walk by and wave at when you, like we had supper sometimes in February even in our sun porch. So that's something that I really like.
When
Not
we first,
that it's very pertinent.
No, but
it is a really pleasant thing. And some of those, like I found that some of those porches don't have as much light. Like they might take light out of the front room, but they're not usable when you have mosquitoes or, you know, when it makes quite a difference, the fact that it's a room rather than outdoors, in terms of you can get a few months more in what feels like summer when you're in a sun porch.
yeah, well, we can definitely agree with that. The house we lived in when we first moved to Moose Jaw was a house that we bought as a rental, but we knew that we were coming here, so we bought this little house just on Willow over here. And it had a front porch, and we loved it. In fact, the first 4 days we spent in Moose Jaw, we spent painting this house. So we actually slept in this porch for the first 4 nights, and then we were painting out the rest of the house. So we can certainly attest to, you know, that it is a very nice feature, and something that we could definitely likely do as an option with this house, because we would like to, like I say, provide some sort of front entry. Whether we glass it in and put a door on it, can easily be done.
When you said outdoor steps from the 2 lights, do you mean outside the main suite but still sheltered? But do you mean literally outside that you sometimes see?
Just the question was the outside steps and basically how we've designed them. And there's a couple things I'd like to point out here too. One trend that we've seen in Moose Jaw is the fact that people build their houses so high out of the ground, so you could need 7 steps or something like that to get in the front. Now if you did that, you'd have to have this big massive ramp to meet barrier free. So what we've done is we've actually sunk this house down in the ground. In the basement, on these side windows, we would have to provide some sort of window well. So we realized that that's detrimental, but we did want to keep this house at a more manageable level, we thought. Now, the stairs going into the basement suite at the back would be covered. So what we're trying to do there, we've actually extended the roof over top of them, try to keep the elements out. So it would be a covered area to provide a little bit of shelter.
Would there be a door in between there, or would it, like, snow just blow into the stairwell in winter?
Right now there's no door. It became an issue. I mean, a door could be added, but we've seen quite a few of these, and I think as long as it's covered and you have a bit of a lip on the side to prevent the snow. I mean, there's certainly some maintenance that goes along with it. We realize that, and we would provide some sort of floor drain in there so as the snow melts, and you know, but there is some extra maintenance involved when you do these exterior entries. We realize that, but certainly the value of putting a separate entrance in there and creating a space that's even possible to have a basement suite, we feel that that's more of a benefit.
I think you have to look at the location that the situation of your house.
Exactly.
Because if you're facing, if that doorway is facing to the northwest, it's going to fall out, for sure.
Yeah. So there are measures, I mean, depending on the site that we end up with, there are measures we can take to maybe try and keep the snow out of there.
When you get your property and the site location, then you have to figure out which way your stairs are going to come down. I'm not saying don't put stairs in, I'm saying you might have to do some.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. So yeah, very good point brought up by the stairs. So.
I was wondering what type of basement is this?
Yeah.
As of right now, we've designed it using just a standard foundation system. We are investigating ICFs. We've heard pros and cons of ICFs. A lot of people are really love, they wouldn't do anything but ICF. But there's also some people that wouldn't touch them. So we're still evaluating it, and at this point we've designed with just a traditional foundation, and we'd likely just insulate the walls using Roxol and try and get as much insulation down there as possible. Now, another thing too, when it comes in, we heard yesterday some presentations when they talk about solar thermal systems, that they use those foundation walls to store heat. So I don't know if an ICF would be a pro or a con in that respect. So I think that'll be a little bit more evident as we kind of move towards selecting heating system and so forth.
Would you think would be initial buyers, young, you know, and I'm just looking at stairs, playing on stereotype aging, you know, and as age, that stairs would be detrimental, just the aging in place and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why we've put the ability, I mean, you know, when you're talking about trying to maximize density, especially in a lot like this, you have to go up. I mean, 800 square feet, you can't really fit much in there, right? So that's why we put that elevator shaft in, essentially, is because if mobility is an issue, well, we can build in an elevator right off the bat, right? And that'll get you up and down.
And again,
yeah, it's possible.
Did you consider putting a main bedroom right on the main floor?
Well, that we've got the flex room in the front there too. That could certainly be used as a bedroom if someone did have mobility issues. You know, that's why we put the flex room in there, because it could be, like Raylan said, I mean, bedroom, it could be a dining room if someone wanted a formal dining area, home office if you have a business that you're running out of your house. I mean, we really like the idea of having a flexible space that could be used for virtually anything. What?
Would you ever have a home that has an elevator and no stairs?
I don't know if it would meet code, because if the power ever went out, then you're trapped essentially, right? I think you'd need stairs by code, but do like your way of thinking.
You could be like the aircraft, you could have a slide.
Slide it back. We're just rubbing for a fireman's pole or something like that. So. So, I guess does anyone else have any comments? Anyone want to yell and scream at us or anything? Because generally speaking, people think we're on the right track.
Would ownership of the home as a duplex would be two families or two?
Essentially, yeah. We'll sell each unit individually, and then the homeowner will have the option to renovate the basement suite. But it would essentially be two units that are owned. Depending on the situation, though, there could be a situation where we might sell them as 4 individual units. But I think our preference would be to sell them as 2, and then give the homeowner the decision to rent out the basement.
Have you considered the duplex design in, say, 6 units as a connected building and as a condo?
We certainly could. We would run into issues with our current design with the bedrooms the way they are, because you need egress. So to stack our design, we'd have to look at the bedroom locations to make sure that we have those exterior windows. But certainly we would love to look at taking this concept and applying it to a multifamily if the right project came along, for sure.
So you'll be restricting, given that you want to keep the connectivity and community and walkability, you'll be restricting yourself to where you're built.
Exactly.
Yes. And we want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of our mission. Like I said, our goal isn't to be Moose Jaw's next big home builder and build things out in the suburbs. So what we want to do is, and to be honest, I mean, we're not looking at doing a huge amount of volume. That's not our intention either. Once again, it's providing an option that we feel that Moose Jaw agents don't have right now, and I think we think there could be a market for it, and I don't know. So I think at this point, I think Jen wanted to do a little bit of a wrap-up session just before we let everyone out. Or Don, do you want to come up and?
Well, we had a wrap-up session last year, and it's not something that took a lot of time, but we did get some feedback and comment from people. Last year, of course, was the first forum of this type. So if people have expressions or comments about not just this session, but the last day or two, and of course there's the evaluation form, but if you want to make a verbal comment. And I just want to personally thank Jan to start with.
I think we all need to thank Jan. I think we should give Jan a applause.
Incredibly small budget, and the partners that we had that couldn't make this work with the resources that the city has available for this kind of stuff. So CMHC and the people we brought in were incredible presenters. Presenters like yourself and SIAS, who provided this facility, which would cost us considerable if it was provided at the normal rental price. And
I'll just interject there, but yeah, Cam Dupuis here from Calgary. Many of you have met him over the weekend, and he's been very instrumental in bringing in our guest speakers from Toronto and from Calgary, and you know, this sort of task that I took on was great because it's a passion for me, but also for you people to be here at 5 o'clock on a Saturday in February. Is just indicative of your passion for the environment, for sustainable living. So it's been good. But Don, I'll give you the microphone actually.
Okay, there's just one other comment.
Yeah, I think the one other comment, and it was one of the themes in earlier discussions of the community engagement. We talked about that in the Toronto development and others. That's of critical importance, and this is community engagement to an extent, but the people here are pretty highly motivated from a number of different perspectives to be part of this. We have to move on some of these issues to a different level of community engagement, and we're not very good at it, I don't think, collectively. And so the Housing Advisory Committee and City Council administration and so on, we have to more effectively engage the community, because we've got short timelines on a lot of decisions. The question, I mean, you talked about new urbanism and future development. We're locked into a situation in West Heath, which is where there's going to be a lot of development in the next 5 years, probably a couple hundred lots we're estimating. And it's a subdivision plan from the 70s. It's not new urbanism, it's not neighborhood mixed housing. The zoning is quite uniform. We're trying to add more density with smaller lots, but the question of multiple units and so on, not part of that zoning at all. These kind of duplex units. Several areas of the city in transition where that might be a fit, but we do spot zoning here and there, and you know, potential reactive issues. The whole area between here and Main Street to 9th Avenue. We've made a resolution that we need to do a public process and look at zoning changes there, but nothing set up to do that. South Hill areas and that West Heath area, those people are going to have something to say about issues of what should be integrated into that community. So we're not going to deal with that here, but it's one of the things that comes up as a theme here that we need to try and engage in the community over a longer period of time. So those of you who are local and part of this community need to help us with that. I think that's one of the important lessons and instructions out here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, actually, to follow that up, when I first said that this is a design charrette where we all get together and kind of hammer out things with markers and paper, there's nothing saying that we can't organize something like that and try and figure out, you know, what an optimum house would look like. In fact, we'd love to do that. And just want to say too, we've got business cards up at the front here, so if anyone wants to be involved in something like that in the future, by all means come up and get our card and let's do it. Let's get together and organize something along those lines.
And we will likely be looking at doing something like this next year. The focus and themes we'll have to develop, but this network will certainly be an important part of it. Does anybody else have any kind of sum up comments?
Taylor from Java Express is planning on setting up green drinks. Jan may know more about that than I do. It'll be a monthly meeting to begin with, and we'll use it to network and to educate. So you can look forward to that. Probably be starting in the next few months. Jen, maybe you can speak to that.
So St. Patrick's Day with a little more thought.
Well, yeah, we're trying to hold regular discussions, regular dialogues on green issues for our community and for our surrounding area and province. And Julia here next to me is just going to give a plug for an opportunity coming up in Regina. And as well, we might even start this green drinks off on February 22nd. We're just going to finalize that. We're going to use the Kristen Schoberg there, has been instrumental with the Facebook page for the Environmental Advisory Committee. So we're going to try and get our word out using Facebook, technology, things in the paper. But go ahead, Julie, you can give a plug for that permaculture.
We have Rob Avis coming from Calgary to Regina. He's with Verge Permaculture, and he gives a really dynamic workshop. So he's giving a free talk at the Cathedral Neighborhood Center on Friday evening, and then on the Saturday all day there's a workshop at the university. And Joanne's coordinating that, so if anyone here is interested there, please contact her. If enough people indicate interest, we can get Rob to come to this first Green Drinks session in Moose Jaw.
But that's not this Friday, that's February.
That will be February 22nd.
Yeah, but that one is the 24th, 25th.
Yeah, the Regina is 24th, 25th, but seeing as he's in the neighborhood, he said he would come here on the 22nd if we could get some interest and some people committed to attend. So if anyone's interested in that, I have a sign-up sheet out here. Please sign up so I can contact you and let you know how it evolves. Thanks.
Oh, and the other thing to mention is that Saskatoon, and Rob will also be in Saskatoon February 17th and 18th. So if you, first I prefer you came to Regina, but if you're not available that weekend, then Saskatoon the 17th and 18th. And to access information, there's Permaculture Regina Facebook page or Verge Permaculture website in Calgary. And then there's Permaculture Research Institute of Saskatchewan and Saskatoon. They kind of claim that Saskatchewan thing, so I don't know. But anyways, that's how you can find out more about it, and there's just what you go out there.
Okay, and if I could just put a plug in for permaculture, period. You know, it's great that we talk about our buildings all the time, but we live with areas around our buildings, and we really need to live in harmony with that and create those spaces in a really sustainable and natural way. And permaculture is the most sustainable form of agriculture or living, period, in my opinion. And I think, yes.
Sure. Thanks. I apologize for needing to run, but I think there's a group here that's kind of humble and not inclined to thank themselves, and that's the people who are on the Housing Advisory Committee and the Environment Advisory Committee of the city, who have been absolutely integral in putting together not only this year but last year and the prospects of next year. I think what's going on here is a community discussion that makes sense to continue over a period of time. And what strikes me is that over a period of time, it's amazing how quickly what 2 or 3 years ago seemed really radical has become mainstream. And what's radical today, 2 or 3 years from now, starts to become more mainstream if we're continuing to talk about it and see what people are actually doing. So I want to acknowledge that the Director of Engineering is here. That's great to see. The Member of Parliament is here. That's great to see you here as well, Ray Bowen. And again, to reiterate my appreciation for those advisory committee members who have been putting their heads together, looking to the future in a responsible kind of way, and also in a very, very healthy kind of way, and to join with others in saying thanks for the organization to you, and thanks to Silas for hosting us, Jan. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm just going to ask Kathy Queen from CMHC Calgary to say a few words.
Okay, thank you. I won't take too long. I'm sure everybody's pretty tired of listening to me over the last couple of days.
But anyways, actually, coming in from Calgary and coming to this wonderful town, I had a privilege of getting a great tour, and thank you so much for giving me the tour. I really see a lot of potential in the city. It's just fantastic. I mean, I come from originally from Winnipeg, which has a lot of older buildings, and of course I understand what you guys are going through living in Calgary. I live there now in the marshmallow houses with the vinyl siding and the garages in the front, and I really don't like it, but I don't have much choice. And here there's a lot of choice, and that is amazing. It really is. I thank you so much also for inviting us, and I think we worked very well together. It was a great partnership, and hopefully you'll have us again next year. I think this is a well worth event to participate in and help, and we can probably bring some more stuff to the table, bring in some other folks from other parts of the country to share some of their ideas, as we also did just in the last couple of days. So thanks for having us, and hope I'll be around for a little while too after if I have any other questions. I'm happy to exchange some ideas, so thank you.
All right, so again, is there any comments from anyone? You have your evaluation forms. There's opportunity to write on the back. There's opportunity to email me. My email address is in the program. We do have lots of muffins left over. They're out front by the dozen. Take them home to your loved ones. There's some sandwiches as well. They just came out of the fridge, so they haven't been sitting out all afternoon, so you should be safe there. But again, thank you to everyone coming out, and keep abreast of things on the Facebook page for the Environmental Committee and the Housing Committee. And thank you very much, and safe travels. Thanks to all the presenters and our sponsors that are listed in your programs. Big thank you to Reg Forbes over there from SciAst, and again, like Councillor Mitchell said, and that applause is well deserved. If it wasn't for SciAst, we probably couldn't even hold this event. So it's great to have this institution in our city, and it's great to have the students out too. We've had students out here for a couple days, and it's great that you guys partook in this, and wish you well in your studies. So thanks very much.